the invitation to explore the hidden secrets of mind and reality. There comes a subtle moment, almost imperceptible, when we begin to sense that life holds mysteries far deeper than what our ordinary eyes can perceive. These mysteries dwell in the pauses between our thoughts, in the silent gaps woven into the very fabric of what we call reality. This video extends a heartfelt invitation for you to embark on a journey through profound philosophical theories, not as distant abstractions, but as living keys capable of unlocking new ways to understand both the human mind and the intricate nature of existence itself. By subscribing to this channel and liking this video, you allow these reflections to reach even further, touching not only your life, but perhaps the lives of those silently searching for transformation too. Throughout this journey, we will cross unseen bridges connecting philosophy, science, and deep introspection. We will revisit ancient concepts that, despite the centuries, still whisper timeless answers to modern dilemmas. Who are we, truly? What is reality beneath appearances? How does the mind participate in shaping the world around us? Each segment of this video will serve as an open window, allowing light to fall into corners of your awareness that may have long remained dormant, patiently waiting for this very moment to awaken. These reflections ask for neither blind belief nor the abandonment of reason. Quite the opposite. They invite you to question deeply, to explore, to feel with clarity and curiosity. When philosophy is alive, it is not confined to dusty pages or abstract discussions. It seeps into the way we breathe, the way we love, the way we choose what truly matters. It reveals that behind every idea lies an opportunity, subtle yet powerful, to transform the way we live each unfolding moment of the present. This path is not about handing you ready-made answers. Instead, it is about offering questions so profound they echo within you, gently loosening what you thought was certain. In that quiet disruption, space is created for a new kind of peace. A peace born not from the absence of doubt, but from intimacy with the great mystery surrounding us. It is within that intimacy that life itself begins to feel both vaster and more personal. While the outside world continues rushing at its usual pace, here, within this space we share, time will unfold differently. We will allow each concept to be felt fully, rather than merely understood intellectually. For lasting transformation never arises from information alone. It blooms in those silent inner moments when something suddenly resonates, requiring no explanation, yet changing everything. That is the moment we are here to awaken in you. Prepare yourself to journey through 10 remarkable theories that weave together mind and reality, reason and wonder, thought and lived experience. May this be the beginning of a path that does more than expand your knowledge. May it deepen your relationship with yourself and the world you inhabit. Every window we open along this exploration will also serve as a mirror, and what reflects back at you might just surprise you in ways you cannot yet imagine. 10 portals to understand mind and reality. Before we dive deeper into this exploration, let us open the doors that will guide our entire journey. These are 10 philosophical theories, ideas that have not only shaped the history of human thought, but continue to echo softly within us today. Each one functions like a portal, a threshold that invites you to cross the boundary of what you believe reality to be and uncover hidden layers of the mind and the universe. These are not simply concepts to be studied. They are living invitations to transformation. For the first theory presents the mind as the very creator of reality, inspired both by Berkeley's idealism and modern reflections on perception and consciousness. The second explores time as a human construct, stretching from St. Augustine's meditations to contemporary physics. The third theory delves into the profound duality of body and consciousness, bridging the insights of Plato with the revelations of quantum thought. The fourth opens us to the universal interconnection, a thread found equally in Stoic philosophy and in the teachings of Buddhism. On the fifth theory contemplates the paradox of knowledge and ignorance, echoing Socrates' timeless confession, "I know that I know nothing," and resonating with modern ideas of intellectual humility. The sixth invites us to reflect on freedom and responsibility, traveling through the existential landscapes of Sartre and Kierkegaard. The seventh theory brings forth the impermanence that defines life itself, an idea cherished by Taoism and deeply rooted in the ever-changing vision of Heraclitus. The eighth portal reveals the human search for meaning and purpose, weaving together the insights of Viktor Frankl with ancient traditions that spoke of the human telos, the deep aim that calls us forward. The ninth questions the boundaries between the real and the apparent, asking if we might even now be living within an illusion. From Plato's allegory of the cave to modern simulation theories. The 10th and final theory celebrates the unity of thinking, feeling, and living, where wisdom ceases to be abstract and becomes embodied presence and daily action. But do not look here for absolute answers. Each of these theories serves instead as an open invitation for you to reflect. How does this manifest in my own life? In what ways does it shift how I perceive the world around me? More than collecting ideas, this video is an exercise in learning to see with new eyes, to feel philosophy breathing and alive in the fabric of daily existence. Allow these 10 ideas to settle quietly within you. Not as distant theories, but as silent seeds waiting for the right moment to sprout. In the blocks ahead, we will walk through each one with presence and depth, illuminating a path toward something greater. The understanding that mind and reality are not opposites, but mirrors, reflecting each other within the same infinite inner space. The mind as the creator of reality. What if what we call reality were not something external, fixed and unchanging, but rather a living reflection of our own mind? This is the heart of philosophical idealism, a view championed by thinkers like George Berkeley, who claim that everything that exists depends on the very act of being perceived. Centuries later, modern neuroscience seems to echo this insight. The world we experience is not a pure, objective world out there, but a carefully woven translation, shaped by our senses and interpreted through the lens of the mind itself. This realization changes everything. If the mind creates the reality we perceive, then our thoughts, beliefs, and inner narratives actively shape our experience of the world. Two people can witness the same event, yet inhabit completely different realities, each filtered by their internal lenses, their memories, expectations, and emotional states. This understanding is not a distant abstraction. It carries a transformative invitation. It can liberate us from old patterns or, if left unnoticed, quietly imprison us within them, depending on what we choose to nurture within. Spiritual traditions have long whispered this same truth. Buddhism speaks of the world as mind. Hinduism points to Maya, the grand illusion sculpted by perception. Even quantum physics, in observing how consciousness influences the collapse of the wave function, hints at this mysterious interplay between the observer and the observed. What you think, what you feel, what you hold as true, may not only interpret reality, it may help shape the very fabric of what unfolds before you. To see this clearly is to awaken to an inner responsibility. If the outer world mirrors what we carry inside, then the quality of our inner life deeply matters. Anger casts shadows across everything it touches, while gratitude colors reality with warmth. Silence brings clarity. Chaos breeds confusion. We cannot always control what happens outside us, but how we meet life within. That remains profoundly in our hands. And in this lies one of the greatest freedoms we possess. Perhaps you have already felt this in subtle moments. Days when everything seems to flow effortlessly because there is peace within you. And days when everything feels heavy because your inner world is in turmoil. The external circumstances may not have changed as much as your perception has. This is the quiet key of the theory. To transform the mind is to transform the world, not as naive magic, but as a profound realignment between what we are and how we live. As you contemplate this first portal, allow yourself to ask, what reality am I shaping at this very moment with my thoughts? This question is not about blame. It is about awakening awareness. When we illuminate the patterns of our own mind, we gain the power to choose what we reflect outward. And perhaps this is the first step toward living more fully. To recognize that the reality we see begins always within us. Time as a human construction. Since the dawn of civilization, both philosophers and mystics have pondered the nature of time. What exactly is it? Saint Augustine once confessed that when he doesn't think about time, it seems obvious. But the moment he tries to explain it, it slips through his fingers. Perhaps time is not an external, physical force, but rather a subtle construction of the human mind. A framework we use to make sense of the unfolding of experiences. What we call past, present, and future may exist only within the mind that remembers and the one that imagines. Modern science supports this reimagining. Einstein's theory of relativity reveals that time is not fixed or absolute. It bends, stretches, and contracts depending on speed, mass, and gravitational fields. A clock orbiting in space ticks more slowly than one on Earth. And if even the universe itself holds no universal now, what does this mean for the way we live, constantly racing against time, as if it were a rigid line we must follow? In everyday life, we intuitively sense this relativity. A joyful moment seems to vanish in the blink of an eye, while pain or boredom stretches time endlessly. This psychological time, the one we feel, does not follow the strict ticking of the clock. It is shaped by our emotions, attention, and the meaning we assign to each experience. Time, then, is not something we measure, but something we live through, moment by moment, breath by breath. When we begin to see time as a construct, something shifts inside us. We are no longer bound to the tyranny of later, no longer held captive by deadlines and deferred dreams. We start to honor the present, not as a fleeting second between what was and what will be, but as the living heartbeat of life itself. Urgency softens. Anxiety begins to dissolve. Life becomes less of a race and more of a rhythm, a dance with the present moment, where each breath can be complete in itself. But this theory also invites us to reconsider the way we hold on to the past or fear the future. If both exist only within our memories and projections, then the present becomes the only space where life actually unfolds. It is here, and only here, that we can plant the seeds that will shape what is to come, without being crushed by what has already been. In this space, possibility is born, not from force, but from awareness. By accepting that time is, to a large extent, a mental creation, we make room for a lighter, more spacious way of living. We no longer need to rush what wants to unfold or cling to what is passing through. We simply flow with it, moment after moment. Eternity, it turns out, does not exist far away in some distant cosmic realm. It reveals itself in the stillness of now. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we've always been searching for. The quiet peace that only the present can truly offer. The duality between body and consciousness. Have you ever wondered where the body ends and consciousness begins? Are we merely flesh, bones, and electrical impulses firing in the brain? Or is there something beyond, invisible and silent, quietly observing the body without being confined to it? This question, lingering since the time of Plato and still explored by modern neuroscientists, remains one of the greatest enigmas of existence. It is the riddle that whispers beneath every heartbeat. What truly are we? René Descartes famously declared, "I think, therefore I am." Yet does existence rest solely on thought? What about feeling, the soft undercurrent that precedes thought? And what about the quiet presence that simply observes thoughts passing by, like clouds drifting across an endless sky? The body ages, falls ill, transforms over time, but something in you, a witness, remains constant. Who is this witness? Is it part of the body, or does it reside beyond it, untouched by change? Near-death experiences and deep meditative states often describe something astonishing. People report perceiving themselves outside of their bodies, as if consciousness could exist independently from its physical vessel. Science continues to search for explanations, yet philosophy invites us to pause and simply contemplate. What if you are not only this body? What if your essence stretches wider than any physical form, a quiet expanse that cannot be confined to matter? This theory ignites a powerful question. If we are more than the body, why do we confine ourselves to it so rigidly? Why do we measure our worth by appearance, age, or physical performance? Could it be that what truly defines us is not the outer form, but the quality of presence we carry, something intangible, invisible, yet deeply felt by everyone we encounter? And yet, to deny the body is to deny part of who we are. The body is a temple, a sacred bridge, the vessel through which we experience this world. What would it look like to honor the body without confusing ourselves with it? To care for it as one cares for a sacred home, while remembering that we are not the walls but the life that animates them? In this shift, the body ceases to be a prison and becomes a partner in the dance of being. Perhaps the answer does not lie in choosing between body and consciousness, but in recognizing the delicate dance between them. We are both matter and mystery, earth and sky, limitation and infinity. And when we embrace this duality fully, something awakens within us, a deep remembrance that life is far more than mere survival. It is about living as a whole, integrating every layer of who we are, until the boundary between body and spirit dissolves into unity. The universal interconnection. What if everything that exists, every star, every leaf, every heartbeat, were part of a single living organism? What if nothing stood apart, and all that we see and all that we are moved in quiet harmony with something infinitely larger than ourselves? Philosophy and spiritual traditions have long intuited this truth. The Stoics named it logos. Buddhism calls it interbeing. And today, even science begins to uncover invisible patterns linking the infinitely small to the infinitely vast, threads of connection woven throughout existence. This realization shifts how we view our own actions. A single act of kindness is never small. It reverberates in unseen ways. A selfish choice is never isolated. It ripples outward, touching lives we may never meet. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what if every thought I have left an invisible mark on the fabric of the world? How would I choose to think? Such questions open us to a new level of responsibility, one born not of fear, but of reverence for the web we inhabit. At the quantum level, distant particles appear to influence each other instantly, as if the universe itself were a unified field of information. Could it be that our emotions and intentions participate in this same field? When we feel compassion, something inside us changes. Yet perhaps, subtly, everything around us changes too. The heart that opens within us might be the same heart that beats, quietly, in all things. This theory also asks us to reconsider our understanding of solitude. Perhaps we are never truly alone. We are bound by shared breaths, drawn together by gravity, held by the same sunlight that warms every face on earth. Loneliness may not be the absence of others, but rather the temporary forgetting of the invisible web that sustains us. A forgetting that fades the moment we remember how deeply we belong. But to awaken to this interconnection is to awaken to care. It is not about carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, but about realizing what I do to another, I ultimately do to myself. When we treat life with reverence, the world does not simply change. We change with it. Every thought, every gesture becomes part of the living whole we share. When this truth settles into the heart, something within us expands. The boundary between I and you dissolves, and what remains is a quiet we, a recognition of shared being. Living from this awareness may not solve every problem, yet it transforms the way we face them. And perhaps this is the first step toward a greater transformation, one that belongs not only to individuals, but to the collective awakening of humanity itself. The paradox of knowledge and ignorance. The more we come to know, the more we begin to sense the vastness of what we do not know. Socrates intuited this truth centuries ago when he humbly declared, "I know that I know nothing." Far from being a lament, this statement opens a doorway into humility, a quiet recognition that true wisdom is not born of arrogance, but of an endless willingness to keep learning, to remain open, to be transformed by what we do not yet understand. We live in an era saturated with information, yet starved for understanding. We know more about the external world than any generation before us, but often remain strangers to our own inner landscapes. We collect data, but lose silence. We chase explanations, yet forget to pause and simply feel. Philosophy gently invites us to reverse this pursuit. Rather than filling the mind endlessly, perhaps the deeper task is learning how to empty it. What insights might arise if, even for a moment, we stop trying to explain everything? This paradox reveals something essential. Knowledge has the power to liberate, yet it can also confine. When we believe we hold all the answers, we unknowingly close doors to deeper horizons. But when we acknowledge our limits, when we admit that mystery will always remain, something opens within us. The unknown ceases to be a threat and becomes an invitation. Life returns to being what it was meant to be, an open field of discovery. Have you noticed how the simplest questions are the ones that echo the longest? Who am I? Where am I going? What is real? These inquiries have crossed centuries and civilizations, yet remain unresolved, alive, and urgent. Perhaps their purpose was never to be fully answered, but to accompany us, to shape us, as we walk the path of existence itself. As we progress through these reflections, notice how they begin to weave together. The mind as creator of reality, time bending and dissolving, consciousness dancing with the body, the invisible web that connects us all. And now, the quiet acknowledgement that there will always be more mystery than answers. This recognition does not diminish us. It makes us more human. It softens us. It calls us deeper into the present moment. Feel this truth settle gently. Not knowing everything is not failure. It is freedom. Conscious ignorance opens space for curiosity, for humility, for reverence toward the unfolding of life. And it is this reverence, this soft awe, that prepares the heart for what comes next. A deeper descent into the final theories, where the impact on how we live and see the world will be impossible to ignore. Freedom and responsibility. The weight and beauty of choice. Have you ever felt the quiet weight of a choice resting in your hands? That pause just before deciding, when every path seems possible, and yet somehow irreversible. Existentialist philosophy suggests that we are radically free, perhaps more free than we often dare to admit. But such freedom carries a profound cost. With it comes the responsibility to bear the consequences of what we create. It is as if life has handed us the brush to paint our own destiny, stroke by stroke, color by color. Jean-Paul Sartre famously declared, "We are condemned to be free." Condemned because there is no escaping choice. Even indecision is itself a decision. And yet blessed, because this same freedom grants us the power to rewrite our own story at any moment. What would change in your life if you fully accepted that no one else can live it for you? That every step forward belongs only to you? So often, we confuse freedom with the absence of boundaries. But perhaps true freedom lies in choosing consciously within the boundaries we are given. Like a river flowing between its banks, it is precisely because the river has edges that it discovers direction and strength. What would your choices look like if, instead of fearing limits, you honored them as sacred guides shaping your journey? Responsibility can feel heavy at first, yet it holds a paradoxical liberation. If the external world does not control everything, then there is always something within our reach to transform, our response. This awareness quietly turns victimhood into inner strength. The question shifts from, "Why did this happen to me?" to, "What can I create from this?" And in that shift, we reclaim authorship of our own becoming. Every single day, we make countless small choices that silently construct what we later call destiny. The words we speak, the silences we keep, the paths we follow, the ones we abandon. Which of your choices are drawing you closer to the life you long to live, and which are quietly pulling you away from it? To ask this with sincerity is to awaken to the beauty of authorship, to recognize that your life is, and has always been, your greatest work of art. When we finally understand that freedom is not a burden but a gift, something profound shifts within us. Each decision becomes sacred. Each gesture becomes an act of creation. And with this awareness, we move closer to the climax of this journey, where the remaining theories will intertwine, revealing the vast tapestry that unites mind, reality, and purpose into a single living whole. Impermanence and the value of the present. Everything you love will one day change. This is a hard truth, and yet, in its depth, a sacred one. Heraclitus whispered it long ago. Nothing is permanent except change. It is easy to forget this until life, sooner or later, reminds us. Every moment is unrepeatable. What stands before you today may not be there tomorrow. And it is precisely this fragility that renders the present moment so precious, so luminous in its fleetingness. Do you remember the last time you did something for the very first time? Or the last embrace you gave, unaware it would be the last? Impermanence moves silently. It does not warn us when something is about to say goodbye. When we truly realize this, we stop postponing life for later and begin living it now. And in that shift, the now becomes urgent, priceless, infinite in its briefness. So often we try to control change. We cling tightly to what we love and resist fiercely what causes us pain. Yet life flows like a river that cannot be dammed. Philosophy offers another way, to dance with the current. Instead of fighting what passes, learn to surrender to its movement. For it is in movement, not in stillness, that renewal is born. Impermanence is also a quiet invitation to courage. If everything changes, then we need not fear making mistakes. We can begin again. We can release old versions of ourselves and step into life anew. Each day, life offers us another chance to live more authentically. If we have the courage to embrace what is alive, right here, right now. Imagine if you knew this sunrise would be the last you would ever see. How would you look at the sky? How would you touch the hands of those you love? How would you choose to spend the hours left in your day? Impermanence is not tragedy, it is a reminder. It calls out, do not delay living. Feel, witness, love. The present is all that truly exists. To accept that everything changes does not steal our peace. It gives us peace. We learn that nothing needs to last forever to be meaningful. The present, precisely because it is brief, is sacred. And with this understanding, we move toward the climax of this journey, where all the theories converge and reveal the greatest secret, the silent unity between mind, reality, and life itself. Unity of thinking, feeling, and living, where philosophy becomes presence. There comes a moment at the end of every true journey when the threads we have followed, questions, doubts, revelations, begin to weave themselves into a single fabric. Here, at the close of this path, we discover that philosophy was never meant to remain on the page or in lofty debate halls. It was always calling us back to life itself. Thinking, feeling, and living are not separate acts. They are one movement, flowing silently within us. Throughout these portals, we have explored the mind as creator of reality, the fluid nature of time, the dance between body and consciousness, the web of interconnection, the paradox of knowing and not knowing, the weight and gift of freedom, the sacredness of impermanence, the search for meaning, and the tension between the real and the apparent. And now, they all converge here, revealing a truth so simple that it resists words. Wisdom is not something we chase. It is what emerges when thought, emotion, and action harmonize. Or in this harmony, thinking loses its rigidity and becomes clear. Feeling loses its turbulence and becomes depth. Living loses its haste and becomes presence. We begin to understand that reality does not wait for us to be perfect to reveal its beauty. It waits only for us to be present. Every insight we have gathered along this path becomes alive the moment we breathe it into our choices, into our way of seeing and touching the world. This final theory is not really a theory at all. It is a return to simplicity, to the quiet ground beneath the constant motion of life. When we think from the heart and feel with the mind, when we allow presence to bridge these inner currents, we no longer stand apart from the world. We participate in its unfolding. The separation between I and life dissolves into a quiet belonging. As you reach this point, notice what has stirred within you. Perhaps a question remains unanswered, or perhaps the question itself has transformed you. These ideas are not meant to be concluded, but lived. They ask to be carried into your mornings and your nights, into the way you greet others, into how you face your own inner storms. In living them, philosophy stops being distant and becomes the most intimate companion you have. And so, as this journey closes, we arrive not at an ending, but at a beginning. The portals we have crossed do not close behind us, they open within us. May you walk forward with deeper curiosity, gentler eyes, and a heart attuned to the quiet unity of mind and reality. For the greatest transformation does not happen in the world outside. It begins always in the silence within you. And so, see you in the next video with more information on everything that involves growing, evolving, transforming, and manifesting. See you soon.